Pete Cohen. Welcome to the My 365 podcast series. This is episode 132. It is our My 365 member of the month for April. Her name is Beth Greenway, and this is a story that is so inspiring, how someone had the heart to turn their life around even when they were threatened with a serious medical condition. I'm sure you're going to be absolutely inspired by this story, how this person really has done something incredible, like we can all do something incredible. The story of your life isn't over, and you have the opportunity to create a life of meaning, a great life. And when you listen to people like this, it can only inspire you to take control of this wonderful gift that you've been given. So enjoy the show. But remember, today's podcast is brought to you by My 365 Elite, the number one opportunity in the world right now for you to get world-class coaching, to have access to the greatest tools, tips, techniques on this earth for you to actualize and optimize your life right here, right now, today. Go and check out mi365elite.me/30 days. That's mi365elite.me/30 days. We'll see you for this incredible podcast in a few moments. Hey, it's Pete Cohen here. Welcome to the podcast. I'm absolutely delighted that my guest today is the amazing Beth Greenway. Now, Beth is also our member, our My 365 member of the month for April. Congratulations. How do you feel?
I feel absolutely amazing. Thank you, Pete. That is an absolute honour. I can't tell you how thrilled and delighted I am. Thank you.
Well, for us, we spend time every month thinking about who we would like to be member of the month, and we're kind of spoiled for choice in many cases, but we're always looking for stories. We're looking for stories of people that have done some incredible things with their life and people who want to do incredible things with their life. But I know you're quite quiet in the My 365 community, but you're still very active, aren't you? You're still very much...
I am. I try to be as active as I can. I find it, I'm not so engaged in posting in the community, but I tune in as often as I can in the mornings. I really like that sort of routine of the broadcasts. That really works for me. And I do the masterclasses in the background. And yes, I do post occasionally because I get value from that. But I love the community.
Brilliant. So just tell us, before we kind of get stuck in, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, we're going to dive into your story, which is pretty incredible. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I am a personal trainer, or I specialise in rehab work for people with long-term medical conditions. That's something that I've always been passionate about. I started in a more athletic background, working with triathletes, but then because of my own story, which we will get to, I realised that there was a very disenfranchised bunch of people in the fitness community. It was almost like, if you fit the mould of being someone who's almost fit but just wants to ice the cake, there was lots of things for you. But if you have a long-term health condition, there's an awful lot of gyms and fitness facilities that will actually turn you away. They'll go, oh no, we can't help you. And I thought, well, that's a real travesty, because these are exactly the people we should be helping.
Yes.
Not necessarily the people who are almost fit and just need a little bit extra, but the people who have, for whatever reason, had sort of medical issues in their life and have come to recognise the value of fitness.
Yes.
And they want to do it maybe to either help themselves get better, or most often, I think, to stop themselves from acquiring another condition. We're all told about inactivity and, we need to do more exercise. And when you have a long-term health condition, it's really difficult to sort of access somewhere to help you and someone with the knowledge to help you. And I decided that was a gap I could fill.
I feel like we've just opened up Pandora's box
Yes.
with that one. And, I always find it interesting when I'm interviewing people to think, okay, where's this going to go? Because when you said that, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you're right. People with cancer would really benefit from exercise, or any, so many health conditions.
Yeah.
As you just asked me about my dad. My dad, 79 years old, just been taken to a rehab hospital. And it's all about going in the gym It's all about movement. It's all about using the body for what the body is designed to do. And, there is a massive market for that. But look, before we look at your story, Just tell us a little bit about what My365 has done for you and what you have taken from that.
I joined My365 not right at the beginning, but fairly near the beginning. I'd sort of come across you in the fitness world before. So once you started My365, it was a very natural thing for me to kind of think, oh, what's Pete up to? Let's go and have a look. And I sort of started to listen to your broadcasts. I was a bit after Periscope, but Facebook,
Yes.
I really, for me, it's the routine that I love. It's the fact that I can set my alarm, not too far in advance of your broadcast, I may add, but I set the alarm and it gives me that real boost first thing in the morning. I'm a real believer that it's important to bring into our lives positivity and that kind of mentality of working on ourselves. And it's easy to get up in the morning and just go through the motions, whereas when I listen to you, I don't.
Yeah.
It gives me that instant lift in the morning and an instant focus, and I love it because I can sit there with my journal. I love the journal as well. I can sit there with my journal and I actually write notes in my journal as I'm listening to the broadcast, and sometimes I go back and listen to the broadcast again because I think, oh, hang on, I didn't quite put that down correctly. And my routine then, I enjoy that because I can come back in the evening. I'm not always perfect, but I try and do morning and evening. And in the evening, I actually look through what I listened to in the morning and I see how that influenced my day.
Yes.
And I just find I couldn't think of a better way to start my morning. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure my day, I think if I could almost have pre-My365, post-My365,
Yes.
I'm a better person for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and also for me, it's such a great pleasure because my goal is to impact the lives of 100 million people. And I know that if I impact your life and then you're impacting other people's lives who don't even know me, I don't care. But people are very lucky and very fortunate to work with you because you're one of the most, what's that word? It's not just honest. You just want to help people. And, part of the reason why we wanted you to be Member of the Month is because of your story and this book that you've got coming out it's called Upbeat.
Yes.
And it's all about growing resilience and positivity in the face of medical adversity. And we'll make sure that, I would like to get my hands on a copy of this as well, because I know obviously a little bit about your story, but I didn't know your medical the challenge that you've had until not long ago. And I must admit, I was really taken aback when I heard about the severity of the situation that you were in. And I'm not a believer in God, but I'm definitely a believer in something else apart from just what we see. And, I prayed for you every single day. I put something out there because I didn't realize just the severity of the situation that you found yourself in. So I don't know, where should we go with this? Tell us a little bit about what happened to you recently. And
I think, okay, we can go recently, but maybe the easiest way is to go right back,
Right
because
back,
then it kind of and I can be quick in that, but it explains the situation. I was born with congenital heart defects, so right from the very beginning, my earliest memories, I already knew that I had issues. So and for whatever reason, I sort of snaked my way through the medical system as a child, and I think about listening to you now and your dad, and then I think about my parents and me, and I realise that for anyone with a medical condition, it's not the person themselves often that suffers the most. That seems strange. I think it's the people who love them that suffer the most. Yeah. So I have absolute respect for my parents who realistically had to hand over their child at various points and say, help, we have a problem. So I had surgery when I was 9.5, which was very successful at the time. I think that they thought that might be a sort of almost a curative situation. Yes. Right, here we go, fix that. Here you go, you've got your child. And that to a degree was the case. I certainly was athletically more able, but pre-surgery I was tiny, I was a sickly child, I suppose you'd say. And after surgery, I definitely bounced back. My father actually said it was like I'd been stood in some manure. I grew and I thrived. But I always knew physically I wasn't quite as able as other children. And I didn't like that feeling of being different. It bothered me because people would make assumptions about what I was capable of. And I go, no, I decide what I'm capable of. I don't let you decide what I can do, physically or otherwise.
I like that. I have to write that down.
And so I did very well. And I think it was interesting when I went away to university, or just before then, I started, I don't know, I'm not exactly clear what happened. Maybe it was that sort of adolescent angst and everything else. But I went through a phase of, I don't like to call it victim mode, but I was almost a victim. I started to reflect on my childhood, which I said, aside from the medical issues, had been wonderful. But I started to think, well, I'm different and this isn't fair and life threw me this wicked straw. And I think I almost wanted people to feel sorry for me. And then I was really blessed that I think people come into our lives for a reason, and sometimes they're not there for very long. And a particular individual came into my life, a relationship, of course, and at one point when I think I was having a really morose moment, and life's terrible, and he said to me, I love you, but I cannot love you when you're like this.
Yeah.
And walked away. And I was absolutely mortified because I almost felt like I was reaching out, and he shut the door in my face. But it was the most powerful thing that ever happened, because all of a sudden I started to, after the upset, yes, I started to reflect on the way that I portrayed myself, yes, to the rest of the world. And that sort of self-reflection, I started to think, well, hang on a minute, maybe he's right. Maybe I don't need to be this miserable individual, and maybe I can do more than I think I can. And it really was a turning point.
Yeah.
And I owe him a lot. I don't know him anymore. We've drifted apart a long time ago. But if ever there was an individual that had sort of given me a metaphorical slap in the face, yeah, and said, oi, sort this out.
Yeah.
And I did. And it suddenly it really did flick the way I looked at my life, almost like a light switch. And I started to realise, instead of being that victim, that there was so much to be grateful for. I suddenly turned into sort of gratitude mode, and it's the way I've been ever, yes, since. I just feel incredibly grateful. If I look and I'd been born probably 10 years earlier, I wouldn't have survived anyway. So there was no reason to feel sorry. All I could do was feel grateful for the medical intervention that had got me where I was, etc. So I started to test the limits of my body. I found that was some area where everyone had said, oh no, you'll never be any good at sport, blah, blah, blah. And I'd gone, oh, I'll never be any good. And actually, what I found out was I was quite good. It just took some work. And I enjoyed the process of that work. Yes. And it became somewhere where I could regain that control, and I could sort of assert my own destiny, really. I had a chance to actually sort that out for myself. So I went from being someone who apparently wasn't athletically gifted to somebody who became a fairly good triathlete. I wasn't brilliant by a long shot, but I worked hard. And wow, I loved swimming, biking, running. I inadvertently moved to America in this period and spent 8-9 years there training pretty much full time. I raced all over the place with not great success, but probably reasonable success, just through work ethic and not talent, that is for sure. And
that's amazing. You know, it's I didn't know that, and you know, with your honesty about how you were looking for something outside of yourself, almost wanting, you know, that victim mode and wanting the world to rescue you. Yeah. That realization through something which obviously hurt.
Yes, it wasn't good at the time. No, it felt bad. No.
Well, there's that old adage, isn't there? What hurt instructs.
Yes, and
it can instruct you in, you know, it could have instructed you more to go into victim mode,
yeah,
rather
absolutely,
than flipping a switch and go, no, I'm going to be grateful. And I personally believe that anyone who can be a really good victim could also do the complete opposite, which you quite clearly have done. And so tell me, when did your health become a challenge again?
I was about 30. I'd been racing very successfully, and things started to take sort of a bit of a downhill. And in my mind, I've always been one to take personal responsibility for things. And yeah, I thought to myself, oh, obviously I'm not training hard enough, or this is, you know, I've done something wrong here. I'm not training like I should. And my instinct was to train harder. I go, okay, if this isn't working, work harder. And I really couldn't work harder. And I thought, there's something not quite right here. I was getting slower and slower, more and more breathless. And then I did what I normally do again, and I went, oh, I'm getting older. That's what it is. This is what happens to people when they hit 30. It all goes downhill. And luckily, by the by, at this point, I moved back to the UK, which was very, very lucky because I didn't have any health insurance in the US when I was there.
Yeah.
So I came back to this country, and I'd been experiencing an awful lot of weird palpitations and heart irregularities. And at one point, I was really, really unwell for several days, and I thought, well, I think I might go to the doctor here. I never go near the doctor if they've got to drag me in there near enough. And I thought, I think this is not good. And I went to see my GP, who said, ooh, well, aren't you going to your regular follow-up appointments that you're supposed to have? I went, oh, no, I stopped doing that 12 years ago. I deliberately almost stopped doing it because I wanted to distance myself from that part of my life. I thought that's history, let's move on. But actually those 12 intervening years had not been particularly kind, and my heart was definitely struggling. I ended up back in the National Health Service system, and ended up right in front of the very same consultant I'd seen 12 years earlier, who sort of looked at me and went, well, where have you been? And I went, America.
Doing triathlons? What do you
America
expect?
doing all the things you told me not to.
Yeah.
I always, unfortunately, I may be quite contrary in life, and the best way to make me do something is to tell me not to. And what had stopped me going initially was asking the same individual, I think I'd like to do some running. And he went, there was that sharp intake of breath. And I think you can do that as long as you don't want to run marathons or anything. I can picture the conversation now, and I went, oh, that's something I need to do then, isn't it?
Yes.
So that was what had precipitated that part of my life.
Yeah.
I don't like, as I said, again, people setting boundaries for me. I go, no, I set those. I decide what I do, not you. So actually, I guess 2005, I ended up having another heart surgery to try and, again, get me back to where I needed to be, a redo of some of what had been done when I was a child. And again, I bounced back incredibly quickly from that surgery. I think partly because I was relatively fit. I look at people in a similar position to me, and I realise that you've got a choice. You can push on and try and maximise what you've got, even if that's getting less, or you can give up and accept. And I don't like the giving up and accepting, because I think that the less you expect of yourself, the less you end up with. I always want to know that there's a ceiling, but I'm going to keep bumping onto that ceiling, and preferably I'm going to climb through the ceiling.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people think that we've set these ridiculous limitations on ourselves. And I was reading something the other day about worry creates like an artificial limit. You think but there's a layer, you put the level of worry there, which often stops you.
Yes.
And then you ask people, how far can man run without having to stop? So some people might say 30 miles or something, but there's a group of, I think, North Americans who can run something like 200 miles non-stop. So we're all much more capable, and obviously, what you achieved with the challenge that you had, I suppose it wasn't a challenge, it was what it was, and you were going to carry on no matter what.
Yeah.
So after that heart surgery, you bounced back.
Absolutely, and again, I was relatively fit and healthy. I don't think I ever quite reached the levels I did before, but I don't think that matters. I think the answer is to strive, providing you're striving, and I think it's also it's been important to me to have a belief that I could be better. I think that's always been a driving sort of force underneath everything, is that no matter where I am today, if I believe I can be better, then there's a chance I can.
When you say believe, and I'm writing some great notes down here, by the way, when you say believe that you can be better, what does that in effect mean? Does it mean that you're able to see a future for yourself? Does it mean that or is it something you say to yourself? Because people talk about self-belief, and it's like, well, what does that really mean? What does it mean to you?
I think it's a bit of both. Yes, I do see myself as being better. I mean, better physically or mentally or emotionally. I think we're all a work in progress. Mm-hmm. And if we accept ourselves where we are today, then that's strive. We stop striving because we go, well, this is the best I can be, and I don't think I will ever believe that I'm the best I can be in because there's always a future.
Yes, yeah.
I can always keep moving forwards and keep trying, keep different
No matter
tactics,
what.
different,
So
just because one door shuts doesn't mean that
All
there
of
isn't
them are
going to be
shut.
another one that's opening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was watching Sylvester Stallone talking recently because he's obviously now, I think he's in his late 70s,
Yes.
and he was being interviewed about, his life, and he was really talking to the interviewer saying, you know what, I really appreciate this, and I know that my moments are numbered on this earth, and I am going to make the most of this moment because I don't know how many more moments I'm going to have, which seems to be part of how you live your life.
People sort of there would be a natural assumption, I think, if you look at my story and go, oh well, that's quite difficult and bad, and then I realise I so don't see it that way.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that the challenges I've faced and are just part of what's made me me, and
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't undo any of them. I have friends in a similar situation to me, and they go, oh, I wish I hadn't been born with these issues, and I go, I absolutely don't wish that at all. It sounds strange, but I'm quite accepting of the fact that this is my story, and it's made me who I am, and I wouldn't actually change it. And it's given me an incredible perspective in life. Again, that's something I'm really I feel that we all need more perspective. It's very easy to become very focused on ourselves, particularly when there's difficulties and challenges, and you can sort of turn inwards and start looking at your own issues, and the more you look in, actually it's important to look out and realise that no matter what your challenge is, somebody's got it a whole lot worse.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because that whole thing of looking outside for answers where you should go inside, but I suppose the other side of that is when you're stuck inside in your own cocoon of self-absorption, get out of that cocoon and look at the outside world.
And I don't think it matters, because people think it's the medical adversity I've overcome, and I think it doesn't matter what your adversity is in life, because there's people with financial issues, emotional issues. It doesn't matter. Life's hard.
Yeah.
And I don't really necessarily look for an easy life.
Yes. Yeah. Well, maybe that would be boring. But the thing is, it's like, if that is that's your approach to life.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's, your identity. I'm carrying that around with me. So, okay, in that case, you're going to be tested, right? So you were tested again. That was last year. So
I was.
Tell us what happened last year.
Yes, literally. Funnily enough, today I think is tomorrow the 6th, but it would have been Thursday last year was the anniversary of my next heart surgery. So there we go.
This is even more serious.
It was a bit dire. Yes, I hadn't been very well for probably a month before that. Various issues had come up, and it was partly my fault. I don't engage particularly well with the medical community, and I have a firm belief that everything will get better if I just carry on. And it became obvious that things weren't getting better. I was carrying on and things were getting worse, very rapidly worse. And I was having regular blackouts and really in a bit of a state. I was still teaching my classes, and I was having to sit on my chair all day and wheel myself around the studio on my wheelie chair because I actually couldn't stand up any longer. And I started to think, maybe this isn't actually good. And by default, in the end, I ended up in the hospital, and I'd always known there was a sort of very small chance because I have a whole lot of sort of prosthetic parts in my heart, valves, etc. I'd always known there was a chance they could get infected, this lovely illness called endocarditis.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, at the time, I just believed I was anemic, which I was, and I thought the reason I was falling over and passing out was because I was anemic. Well, it turned out I wasn't just anemic, I did indeed have endocarditis. It was a bit of a shock. It was one of those moments when the whole little posse of doctors stood in front of me and said, unfortunately, we think you've got endocarditis. And I went, of course I have.
Yeah.
Why on earth didn't I? Is that sort of head in the sand thing? And I went, uh-oh. And they said, you're going to be admitted to hospital. It's probably going to take 6 weeks or so, maybe more, to clear this up with antibiotics. You're probably going to need surgery. I I got a scan that day. The results, I was in hospital in Plymouth, which is my nearest hospital. Those results got sent to my consultant in Bristol, who took one look at it and said she needs to get here now. So I then had a very lovely blue light ambulance ride, 120, 130 miles up the motorway, and was deposited in Bristol, where again they came and said, right, the plan is you're going to get antibiotics for probably 4 weeks or so, then you're going to get surgery to clean up what we can't get rid of with antibiotics, and then you'll get more antibiotics. And I went, oh, this sounds, whatever it is, it's okay, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things took a bit of an interesting turn a few days later when they did another scan, and I hadn't even got back to the room, and the surgeon's standing at the door going, you're on the table the day after tomorrow. You're going to die if we don't. And he used this lovely term. He said, I've ordered the parts you need.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really funny. It was almost like you go down to the supermarket and you pluck some heart valves off the shelf.
Yeah.
But so here we were, Thursday the 6th last year, of April, on the table again, having another load of work done.
And what do you remember thinking when you heard that? What at that time? Were you still philosophical?
Yes, completely. And having written the book, I'm still slightly perplexed by my own reaction.
Yeah.
I think the surgery before, I'd had a lot of time to prepare myself, and maybe that had given me more time to be anxious. At this point, it was literally like, you're on the table tomorrow, and I knew I was ill, and I thought, well, he actually, when he came in to put the dreaded pink consent forms in front of me, he actually said to me, I think we should sort of discuss the risks, or do you want to discuss the risks of this? And I actually said, very pragmatically, I said, no. Yeah. I said, let's be honest, if you don't do this, I'm going to die later this week.
Let's just do it.
I said, so let's just do it, because the odds actually are irrelevant. You get the choice, possibly live or definitely die. And I thought, I'll take possibly live, thank you.
Yes, well, yes. Well, the odds are like, then you combine into the odds, right? It becomes like a placebo. It's like, don't give me the odds, because I'm going to defy the odds anyway.
It doesn't matter. And I really... I said I almost can't rationalise it. I really didn't fear dying. I thought, I'm not going to die. This is going to be all right. And I was so philosophical, and it was almost, I think, maybe it's what people do when they're in a situation of extreme stress, but I almost found like I'd come out of my body and I was observing myself, and I was quite calm with that.
Yeah.
It was a very strange situation.
It's so crazy that we have to have experiences like that in our life, in many cases, that make us find something in ourselves that we didn't even know that was there. There's another My365 member, her name is Maureen York. She had cancer recently, and I couldn't believe just her attitude of how she dealt with this. And it wasn't fake. It was like, I'm going to conquer this. And you obviously know, it's interesting you said about, yesterday being a year ago, the 1st of April, 7 years ago, Hannah was given 8, she had brain surgery, and, look at the odds. The odds were, well, she's shattered the odds. She's no way she should be here, like you shouldn't be here. But you are here, and you've done something amazing, and I'm sure many people will be inspired by what you've said. I'm definitely inspired by it, hugely inspired by it. And now I'm looking at your book, and I knew the title, but now I'm looking at the title differently, because you've called it Upbeat, which makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yes.
About being upbeat and being above yourself and being upbeat. I wonder where that terminology comes from. So tell me a little bit about the book and why you decided to write it.
I think it was something of a cathartic process, actually. Again, I had these 2 months in hospital. I had to have IV antibiotics, or PICC line antibiotics, 4 times a day, 6, 12, 6 and 12. So that was all very routine in my life. And I realised I could see this hospitalisation as something very difficult and very traumatic, or I could see it as the most incredible opportunity. When else in life was I going to get 2 months to sit on my backside and do whatever I wanted? I didn't have to be responsible for eating, anything else in life. Everything was taken care of. My only responsibility was to be there 4 times a day. and so I thought, what can I do with this incredible gift of time? And part of what I did was some online courses. Every day I'd wake up and set up my laptop and do some online studying. And then I started thinking that I wanted to sort of almost document what was happening, document my feelings and my journey. And I started writing. And I can't say the thoughts were particularly concise to start with. They were a bit jumbled, and I just wrote. I'd spend an hour or so every day writing. I'd also worked out that down the back of the hospital, out the back door, was this amazing nature reserve. And I worked out that I could make my way out there and I could just go for a gentle walk. I was a bit slow, but it didn't matter. And I could actually write some notes, and I'd come back and try and sort of consolidate my thoughts. So at the end of a couple of months, I certainly didn't have a complete book by any stretch of the imagination. Yes. But I had in my mind a framework on which to sort of carry on. And I took those notes and bits of paper and I started to formulate it into a book, and I had a bit of help to sort of come up with a structure, and it took another couple of months until it was done. And actually the process was incredibly quick. Once I got the structure, like so many things in life, you need a structure. Too many random things weren't working, but once I had the structure and the chapters, it all kind of floated into place. So it's a combination of my story, but what I wanted to get into there as well was some of the sort of scientific studies and some of the background and the thinking and how I'd come over the years to the thought processes that I had, so that it's not just my story, but it's hopefully some lessons that people can take out that they can apply in their own situation.
So I can't wait to read it. Tell me, what would the reader get out of, I mean, you just answered some of that, but what would the reader get out of reading? What do you want the reader to get out of reading your book?
The sort of morals, I suppose, in fact, that if you find the chapter headings at the beginning, I ended up with I think it's 10 principles. So Your diagnosis does not define you. Your emotion is under your control, always. Focus on the parts of your life you can control. Learn from the past, look to the future. Never lose hope. Look for the positives in your adversity. You're stronger than you think. Relish the challenge. Life doesn't owe you anything. And, of course, you only live once.
Wow. Wow.
And if I had to, those were the 10 bits, sort of the 10 principles that I pulled out.
You know, because this is a book that is obviously, it's a strange expression, right? Because you think about where the book has come from.
Yes.
It's come from your heart.
Totally.
And it's something you've applied. And you know, that's what I'm all about. It's all about, you can know everything, but it doesn't matter. It's what you apply and what you do. And I suppose anyone that gets to read this is going to get to feel your energy in the book. As you know, the heart is something I talk quite a lot about, and the heart being such a, but it's so interesting. And this is something I wasn't planning on saying, but so your heart maybe is different to my heart for whatever reason, right? Mechanically, you could say this or whatever.
Yes.
But is your heart still the same as my heart in terms of the love that you have?
Absolutely.
And that to me just fascinates me. Is that, does it matter that whatever your heart is, the way it is, and mine is, your heart can still do what my heart can do, which is love yourself, love what you do, and I'm totally kind of blown away by all of this. I can't wait for people to listen to this and to take something away from it. I would really love to know, and I'm sure you'd love to know, what people get from this. Let's talk about where you're going. What's next for you? Apart from producing a best-selling book.
I'm always a believer that I need to keep challenging myself. I think another gift out of my situation, from maybe having been born with health issues and knowing that quite likely my life is not going to run its full score, and that doesn't bother me actually, because it's this daily reminder of get on and do things. It's not waiting and going, I can do that later, and I don't feel like that. I feel a reasonable sense of urgency to achieve in life and to make my life count for something. It's a slightly strange tangent, but I'll say it.
Yes.
I don't have children. My health has made children very difficult, and hence I feel there's no, usually the legacy for people is children.
Yeah.
And I don't have children, so I realise that actually my legacy and my footprint is very much now. So I need to make sure that I'm putting everything I can into now and not delaying things or waiting, because rather like the endocarditis, we just don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
Nobody does. I can walk out of here and be knocked over by a bus. I hope I'm not, because I really do feel that, and I'm not like you, I'm spiritual but not religious. And I feel somebody sort of tried to get me 4 times, because I had a stroke as well. That's the bit we didn't get into that. But somebody tried incredibly hard to get me 4 times and not been successful. Therefore, I believe that I must be here for a reason. I have unfinished business somewhere. So I need to keep trying and keep working and keep figuring out and keep leaving that legacy in the here and now with the people I interact with and the people I help, because that is my legacy, is the people I can work with and the people I can, I'm not sure I like the term inspire, but the people I can inspire to be that little bit better and to expect more of themselves.
Well, as you probably know, I love the word inspire, because it means breathing life into something. But it seems like every challenge that you've had has woken you up even more. And I think that's what challenges in life do. They can really wake us up, or they can push us back down. I absolutely love the way that you talk about the voice in your head that has talked to you and told you you can't do this and that won't happen, but how you've learned to listen to that less and pay much more close attention to the part of you that looks for solutions, asks better questions, and moves you forward. So I'm so excited for this book coming out, and I definitely would like to order my copy now, and a signed copy as well. How can people get hold of the book? How can people find out about you? How can people get to you?
The book will be, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, it will be appearing on Amazon. So if you search for Upbeat, you should be able to find it. Or indeed, if you search for Beth Greenaway, you should be able to find it. It will be on printed copies or Kindle. So if you prefer the e-reader, you can do that instead. In terms of finding me, again, I have a Facebook page. You'll find my personal page, Beth Greenaway. I think it's Beth Fit.
Yes.
I like that one. It's been my little moniker for a long time. There's also a Beth J. Greenaway page where I'm actually working on growing a community, upbeat warrior community for people with long-term medical conditions. Because again, I want to share my experience, but I also want to be able to bring other people into that community, because to share, I think we get stronger by sharing with each other and supporting each other. Again, it's the My365 community. We're stronger together than we are apart. And health issues can make you feel very isolated.
When you said that right in the beginning about health issues, the first thing that came to my mind about long-term health issues, we've all got them.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
And one is called death.
Yes.
That's the long-term health issue that we're all going to have. And but obviously some people have more severity to that. More serious. And I really hope that people take something positive away from this. I would encourage you to definitely get this book. I would definitely encourage you to follow Beth, not literally, but you can. But you'd have a long way to go because you live in Cornwall.
I live in Cornwall, yes.
And what time did you leave home this morning?
Just before 2 o'clock.
Just before 2 o'clock this morning to come here on a bus to then get to Victoria, to come on a train, to come here and then to go all the way back. And when you told me about that, I said, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And because I said, would that not be too much for you? And you didn't answer this using that word, but you kind of said it in other ways, which is, this is an opportunity I want to make the most of.
Grabbing opportunities.
Yes.
And I think you actually have said it, you don't regret the opportunities that you do, you regret the ones you missed.
Absolutely. And there are opportunities absolutely everywhere. It's been totally fantastic talking to you, and I'm so delighted that you're here. I'm so delighted that you're member of the month for May. Please make some comments on this post. Please share it. Let's get as many people to listen to this story, because if you don't listen to this and you're not inspired, then you're probably not alive, because you can't not be inspired by you, Beth. And I wish you great success with the book. Let's buy the book. Let's get the book out there. Let's make this a #1 bestseller. Thank you so much for your time. Pete. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.